Next is lack of physical activity. This is the study. It's available in the resources section of this course. This was published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. Impact factor is 12.68. Publication date was January 2018. It's a prospective cohort study, including 44,828 adults. These are adults who already have impaired fasting glucose, which is defined as a hemoglobin A1C of 5.7 to 6.4, or what we refer to as prediabetes. The follow-up period was 20 years, and they looked at the risk of the people developing diabetes during that follow-up period. So they compared individuals by how much moderate intensity physical activity they were engaged in over that follow-up period. This is number of hours per week of moderate intensity physical activity, which would be the equivalent of brisk walking, compared to someone who is engaging in moderate intensity brisk walking for 7 hours a week. Exercising for 2.5 to 6.9 hours per week raises risk of diabetes by 12%. Exercising less raises risk still further, all the way up to 25% higher for people who are basically sedentary or who have exercising less than 30 minutes per week. The next factor is high glycemic index diet. This is the study. It's available in the resources section of this course. It's published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. This is the impact factor. Any number between 3 and 10 for impact factor is considered good, not excellent like the previous, but is still rare. The average impact factor of a journal is 1. This study was published in July 2014. It's a meta-analysis of 3 prospective cohort studies, including over 205,000 adults, followed for 24 years. Glycemic index is the amount a diet raises a person's blood sugar. And the group was divided into quintiles of how high their glycemic index of their diet was. Compared to the lowest glycemic index diet, the greater the glycemic index for the diet, the greater the risk of diabetes in the follow-up period. The other diet factor that's relevant to A1C risk is fiber. This is the same study. It's available as well in the resources section of this course. Same journal, same study we already described. They also looked at fiber intake, specifically fiber from grains. The population was divided into amount of grain fiber in the diet in tertiles. The lowest fiber intake was in group 3. Moderate fiber intake was in group 2. High fiber intake was in group 1. Compared to the high fiber intake group, with moderate intake of fiber compared to high fiber intake, relative risk of diabetes increased by 15%. And then for the lowest fiber intake, relative risk of diabetes increased by 27%. And finally, overweight and obesity. This is the study. It's available in the resources section of this course. This was published in the journal Diabetes Research and Clinical Practice. This journal impact score 4.24, still above the number 3, which connotes a good quality journal. This was published in May 2010. It was a meta-analysis of 18 prospective cohort studies. 590,251 adults are included, followed for 9 years. And this study showed that a person's body weight determined their risk for diabetes during the follow-up period. So compared to someone with a normal body weight, 18.5 to 24.9, being overweight, which is 25 to 29, had a relative increased risk of diabetes of 192%. That means 2 times as likely to develop diabetes compared to someone who has a normal weight. The relative risk increase for someone who is obese defined as a BMI of 30 or greater, was 628%, which is the equivalent of 7 times greater risk of developing diabetes when you're obese. Of the factors we've explored, overweight and obesity are the single greatest contributor to the risk for diabetes.